Hey YouTube. Hi Country Cowpunk, Jeff. All right, this is part 11 of Hair of the Dog, a continuing saga of thyroid cancer, and just a bunch of other crap too. Um, this one, we talked about in part 10, I said I was going to do this one about addiction. So with that in mind, before we even start, this isn't going to be a preaching video. I am not one to throw stones. You can trust me on that one. Few things that I was trying to, this is about the fifth attempt I made at making this video, and a couple things that I was going into the reasons why I became an addict, and rather than go into that story, we all have the potential to become addicts. Our lives definitely do play a part in it, but honestly, when it comes at the end of the day, you got to own it, and I became an addict, okay? So with that said, first off, there's a few things that are addictive for some and aren't addictive for others. I personally do not have a problem with alcohol. So up yours. And Mr. Trump, if you do close the borders, leave a hole to get this stuff through, please, because it's not bad. And it's not bad for you in moderation. And that's for all the people in Japan, by the way. And then there's this like caffeine thing. Now, when we get into the past addictions, that'll be more prevalent, but I wish they'd had this stuff around a long time ago. Ooh, it's good stuff. Okay, so that being said, kind of a short history of a long life of addiction. I still smoke, even though I've been through the cancer and that. I do, again, in moderation, especially I'm down here in the studio, you might be able to hear the 60 hertz hum in the background, 60 cycle hum. It's a constant down here, but it sounds like home to me. All right, so the first drug I technically was addicted to was Adderall, or back then it was Ritalin. I was diagnosed hyperactive. Truth is, somebody in my family could get prescriptions fairly easy, and there was no doctor really involved or anything like that. They just decided I was hyperactive and put me on that when I was in fourth, fifth grade, somewhere in there. Well, that's meth. So that it didn't like kick the ball off right away. But by the time I was 10 or 12, some family changes. There was a divorce in the family, and then marijuana came into the household, and it at like 11, 12, started smoking pot. Kind of going off the deep end, didn't have a whole lot of supervision at that time. I could bail out and be gone for a while, especially a little past that. Now this is in Los Angeles, in Venice, the Venice, Santa Monica area. Boy, you could, in any drug out there you could get. Then a friend of mine that from grade school, actually, that we hooked up, and then it was on anything we can get our hands on. We would make up stuff even if we didn't have it. We did a lot of acid. We did any pills we could get our hands on. Of course, marijuana, and that the whole time. Somewhere along the way in there, I developed a real liking for amphetamines, and for some reason, and that was the first drug that I really experienced. So. In the 80s, I started dealing with crank and, meth and crank and stuff like that, just off and on. And it wasn't really like an all the time thing. It just when I could get it, I'd get some, and, then want more, and it just kind of went away. As things went on, crack cocaine kind of came into the picture when the whole crack epidemic came up, and that was sure as shit easy to get in Venice. Holy crap, pardon my language, but it was sure as shit easy to get, and it was really cheap. I started dabbling in that, and I became pretty well hooked on that. And I don't know if any of you have smoked crack. It has hooks. It'll get to you. From there, to get out of the crack addiction world I was in, I made a really dumb decision, and it seemed logical at the time. I was going through a rocky divorce. I was kind of sick and tired of being in Los Angeles. I needed to bail out, and I needed to get away from things. And somehow in my head, I had that Las Vegas would be a good place to go. Whoops. boy, you talk about things available all the time. Vegas was not a good place for any kind of an addictive personality to be. Again, it started out just dabbling here and there, and then once I kicked the crack thing there. I had to quit. It was killing me. So I quit smoking crack. I was probably clean for, oh man, 4 or 5 years. Had, new girlfriends, started a new life, did the whole bit. Then things started getting a little rough. Life wasn't treating us well. We had some things going on in the family. Things got weird, and well, what do? You kind of look for an escape, and well, I did some methamphetamine, and kind of liked the stuff. Kind of liked it a lot, actually. I was living in North Las Vegas at the time, and there was a lot of meth around then. I mean, you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a meth lab out there. Again, easy to get. I started using meth regularly, probably about, oh man, 92, somewhere in there. It only took about 2 years for the whole thing to run its cycle. But once I got jumped on the meth, that was kind of it for me. And I don't know if the difference was before we were doing crank. We put it in coffee, or we'd do a little line here or there. Well, when I was, in Vegas, you were smoking it, and started smoking meth. Well, yeah, bigger rush, and with any drug, it's just like crack cocaine. You're chasing the first rush. You're always chasing that first high. Once once the smoking wasn't working out so well, happened to end up in a place where people were doing intravenous drugs. And if you've ever sat and watched somebody do intravenous drugs, it doesn't look like they're having a bad time. So tried that. Really liked that aspect of it. It was I can't even go I can't even describe the difference between smoking and slamming. Okay, once you slam, you talk about being hooked. You're locked in. We in the middle of all that, I actually ended up, and it's kind of one of those big circle things. My wife Heather, we've been married for 22 years this year. We met each other in the middle of that hellhole, and we were both right at the bottom of our spiral. And if we hadn't found each other, I guarantee you, we probably neither one of us would be here. The level you can get to, and the level you will allow yourself to get to is just phenomenal. You are not in control of your being, your body, and it's so degrading, and it's such a it's a self-serving cycle, but it's also a self-deprecating cycle. And it seems like the lower you go, the lower you need to go. And meanwhile, you are just ravaging your body. Okay, I mean, if you're addicted, if you're doing meth, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Meth has hooks. Okay, and by hooks I mean it's very addictive. Heroin has hooks. It's very, very addictive. As far as how we got off. Obviously, these stories I'm actually paraphrasing. There was a lot of crap that happened in between here. Okay, never got arrested, never sold drugs, never dealt drugs. I've always been a user, but I knew people that had good stuff, and that's another thing. It's just that much more addictive. Okay. These days, pot's legal in Colorado where we're at. I can take it or leave it. It doesn't speed doesn't it has been 21 years that 22 years we've been clean. So this year from meth, the way we did it, we actually stopped doing it. There was I don't know if it was a bad batch or what the deal was, but I fixed up a batch, and it was, I guess they hadn't. I can tell you this: whoever did it was either really heavy on the acetone or didn't rinse all the acetone out of it, because as soon as it hit my bloodstream, I knew I was in trouble. I was down to like 118 pounds. I'm 6'2", 2.5. On a good day, and even fully healthy, I weigh 150 pounds. So I was down to 115, 118 pounds at one point, but still kept putting that shit in my body. That's how bad it is. I mean, you can't. You look like a skeleton, and you keep putting it in there. You're afraid to go out in public because of the way you look. I didn't shave or anything for this video. This is not what YouTube is about. This is me, okay? I'm not at work. I don't have to be corporate Jeff right now. This is just talking about addiction. There's a lot of scarring on my face. All that came from the meth use. Yeah, a lot of you may have seen the website Faces of Meth. If you haven't, it's facesofmeth.org. Go look. It's as real as it gets. I looked horrible. Just horrible. But kept doing it to myself. Once I quit, the come down from meth is a very, very it's hard, but I've never done intravenous heroin, so I don't know, and I understand it can be much worse. So you might have to talk to somebody else about that particular addiction. I've only smoked heroin and snorted it here and there. That's way in the past. This was all 20 years ago. When you get off of meth, the one thing you can't do is think you're over it. Okay, and I'm sure this is true of any addiction. We didn't do any 12-step program. We didn't do any. We didn't go through any community center. We didn't talk to anybody. My wife and I, we literally left behind our entire lives, our families, and everything else, and with our tail freaking between our legs, and not in trouble with the law, not in trouble with people. We didn't know anybody, any money. We were just at the bottom of a really, really bad spiral. The recovery, probably the physical recovery was a couple of months easy, if not, I'm sure much more long-term effects from it too, but it was easily months. Okay, at one point I could literally couldn't walk. Heather couldn't be moved without getting violently ill and getting really nauseous. It was really rough. Okay, and then I didn't forget how to read, but I forgot how to learn. I had to learn how to learn all over again. So the way I usually term it is I had to learn how to read all over again, which, if you think about it, somewhere along the way should have been clue phone. Like, when you can't find your way home from the grocery store, you might be doing a few too many drugs. It's entirely possible. Once we got off, what we did is we changed the venue. Okay, I'm rambling a little bit here, but that's the tequila talking. The way we did it, okay, and I don't know if this will work for anybody. We didn't have much money, okay. We did have a vehicle that was still legal to drive. We literally turned our back on the entire situation, okay. We dropped trow and ran out the window. I mean, like, that's we decided, okay, we're gonna move. We got to go somewhere else. And since I was 7 years old, I've always wanted to live in Colorado. So I don't know, why not Colorado? Because it's a place we want to go. Let's go see what happens. And excuse me, we moved on a whim with no place to live or anything like that. We moved out to Colorado Springs. We had a little bit of money. We didn't have a lot, but we had a little bit of money, and which helped. But we had enough to start renting a place, and we rented a place and got Joe jobs, like, as the lowest end of the totem pole jobs we could find, and we literally just gutted it out. We worked our way through it. We had to learn how to think again. We had to learn how to interact with other humans again. It's a long road. It's gratifying in a way, but I wish I hadn't gone through it. But it's my own fucking fault for going through it. Bottom line is that was me sticking needles in my arm. Nobody else stuck the needles in my arms. It's kind of a funny thing. Now that I've been going through all the cancer treatments, I have a lot of blood drawn. They extract, I call them bloodlettings. Pardon me a second. I'm going to feed an addiction. All right, I call them bloodlettings. Okay, the phlebotomist. When I turn my arms over and I hear this, and I wouldn't say all the time, but a good 40% of the time, I get comments like, "Ooh, that looks abused." Yeah, it's just one of those lovely little life moments you share with a total stranger. You just go, "Oh yeah, I've been to a lot of doctors. I had a lot of procedures done." Uh, all right, back on track here. Okay, that's how we did it. That's how we broke free of the entire world we were in. Because if you stay in that world, you will get sucked back into it. Okay, misery loves company, and I know your friends are your friends, and our friends were our friends, and there's people I really respected in there. But again, they weren't going to get out of that world. You cannot be partially in that world or partially out of that world. You have to be out of that world and start a new one. Okay, when you do this, you are literally starting your life over again. Okay, and that's one of the things that helps me stay off anyway. It's that I don't want to start all over again. Okay, I've already done that. Okay, I did it after the crack addict thing. I had to literally start from square one again. After the meth addiction, I had to start from square one again. And the meth addiction was much harder mentally and everything else on the as far as memory and that kind of stuff. So we moved to, like I said, we moved to Colorado. Things have actually been working out very well for us in Colorado. It's actually where I'm supposed to live. I've always known that since I was like, I don't know, yay tall. We live in the middle of nowhere. We have very little contact with people at all. I have bandmates that come over when we can, and we get together, and it's kind of like a poker game. We get together and play music. I work in a casino that you would think would be a very social job, but I manage a surveillance department for a pretty good sized casino, or 3 casinos actually, up in Cripple Creek. And it's just one of those things. Cripple Creek's a small town, and there's a lot of interaction with good people and a lot of interaction with bad people. And it's a small pond. My face can be recognized. I'm kind of known, and I have to be careful who I talk to. And it's one of those jobs. So we are kind of isolated. What did my stepmom call it? She called it self-imposed isolation. Well, that's kind of what we've done. We live at 8,500 feet. We live in the village of Florissant. There's only 25,000 or so people in the whole county we live in. So we live in the middle of nowhere at the top of a mountain. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. The thing to watch out for is getting sucked back in, and it's so easy. Especially life's full of trials, treatments, this whole cancer thing, everything else. What's the point? Why am I struggling? With keeping clean. And by the way, we're not struggling keeping clean. My wife and I would not do meth. You couldn't force us to. There's a lot of meth up here, and I sit up there in that surveillance office, and you just watch people, and knowing what they're going through, or seeing where they're at, especially when you see people that are obviously kind of new to it, and it's fun at first. It's a blast. It's just the best thing you can think better. Your memory works. Everything's great. But man, you're taking chunks of your life away when you do that. And by your life, I don't mean, your liver or your kidneys or you're literally taking what makes life good for people. Okay. Love, you for yourself, love for others. Eventually it'll turn to a love for one thing. There's a master of puppets. It's dead on true. Anyway, this video is getting a little long. I'll do a part 2 if people care. But there's other ways, and for staying off, my wife and I are our own support group. You need help, and there's going to come days when you're gonna need to ask somebody for help, and don't be afraid to reach out. Find somebody. There's people out there that'll talk, and sometimes that's all it takes. Just talk it through, But But I'll tell you what the single worst addiction on the face of the earth is. That is this stuff. Okay? I've kicked everything else on the face of the earth, except for some things I haven't tried, but I'm not going to try them anyway. But this stuff, nicotine, is seriously addictive. Okay, you guys have a good night. Again, sorry the video went so long. I'm probably rambling on a bit. I'll do some more later. I do actually plan to do some more videos. Fukushima ain't stopped. I'm going to do a mineral video next, kind of lighten things up a little bit. And I'm going to do more about the addiction thing. I mean, if anybody has any questions on, if you think your family members are using or anything like that, you got to get in there. You got to get through to them somehow. But the key thing is that person is not going to quit until they're ready to quit. And the only thing you can do up until that point is be supportive. Okay? Don't feed the addiction, but be supportive of the person. Because that person's in there. They're still in there. They're just buried behind the drug. All right. Anyway, look, you guys have a good night. Thanks for all the well wishes and everything, by the way. Still cancer free. So far, so good. We'll hang in there. And Tom, give me a Skype or give me a call soon. We need to catch up. Talk to y'all later. Bye.